user looking for a product or looking for a potential business partner, I need to understand who knows what.
Right.
And the only way to know who knows what is trying to research what they say, what they think about the specific topic.
Mm-hmm. So would you classify this as a fact-checking platform or more of, like, let's say, because I'm thinking about two use cases here. Thinking about one, this could be used as a way to decentralize fact-checking, and in another way, this could be used to validate, like, expertise, right? Welcome to another episode of the Medallion XLN podcast. Today we are here with Laura Digiovanni from Tiiqu.com, as well as my Chief Acquisition Officer, Gary. And today we're going to learn about Tiiqu and how they are using the blockchain to generate trust or to figure out trust in the blockchain. Is that a correct assessment of what you're doing, Laura?
Approximately, for sure. Well, thank you for having me, first of all. Hi, Gary. Hi, Jenny. I'm happy to be with you. Well, yes, the topic is trust. That's what we do. That's our product, if you want. We don't save trust on the blockchain, but we make sure that whatever proof one's trustworthiness is saved on chain. That's what we basically do. We use blockchain-based credentials to create a portfolio of how much an individual can be trusted according to their proofs of identity, knowledge, understanding of topics, experience, and whatever else in the future. And the idea is, yes, establish a trust mechanism that facilitates interaction between people.
Wow, that sounds very interesting. So is this like a credit score system on the blockchain?
It has an element of algorithmically calculated trustworthiness of elements, differently from the trust quotient differently from the trust. From the credit score. The trust quotient is based on elements that signify one's knowledge, understanding of topics, and map the growth of skills. We are basically a story. That's what we are. And there is no single proof that can signal who an individual is. And when I say who, I think of the individual as a whole. His notions, of course, his experience, of course, his feelings, and all together makes the individual, the uniqueness of the individual. So because we are a story, no single proof in itself can say what an individual is, but all together can map the uniqueness of that individual. And And this is basically what we are doing. However, I have to say, along the journey, we realized that before crystallizing into proofs, whatever an individual knows or has done or was exposed to, we first need to work out what the truth is. And yes, I'm very happy that you invited me for Tiiqu, but I would also like to spend a couple of words on Qpedia, which is the project that we have launched beginning of this year to establish a new platform open for everyone to contribute and create truth that can be mapped and continuously validated across spaces like sustainability and emerging technologies.
Very cool. So let's break down to the core element of what you're doing. First, what's your definition of truth?
Good point. The truth is a dynamic element that continuously evolves. If you think of yourself moving in front of a mirror and you're running, what does the mirror reflect? It will reflect one part of you for one single instant. Is that the truth? People generally say, I look myself in the mirror and I see the truth. That's not exactly the truth. It's just one side of the truth. So from our perspective, and I think it can be shared, this perspective, the truth is a dynamic element that continuously evolves. So is the difference between what I hope and what I know that is true are the number of elements that validate my belief. And that's exactly what Qpedia does. It adds elements that validate a piece of truth.
Oh, okay. So you have two products. You have Qpedia and you have Tiiqu. And Qpedia is a validator of truth. And could you explain the difference between the two products?
Yeah, absolutely. It's the opposite. So Qpedia is a platform for knowledge sharing. Anyone can share pieces of truth in the form of questions. And the reason why we look at questions, because at the end of any good question, there is the truth. So we look at anyone contributing questions and anybody answering those questions, and the entire community validating those questions and answers to establish the truth, as a method to establish the truth. And the two products are on one side the knowledge sharing, Qpedia, open source, open platform, anyone can participate, and on the other side the validation of truth, which happens on a mobile application that allows the continuous validation of question and answers on part of the entire community of contributors.
Okay.
And that's the Tiiqu part.
Okay.
And I'll tell you why it is the Tiiqu part, because you correctly need to understand the entire flow. When we look at a piece of truth, in itself, the truth doesn't need to be crystallized on a blockchain for two reasons. The first, the truth evolves, and the second, the real point is not the piece of truth, is the trustworthiness of those who validate the piece of truth. So truth, like diamonds, can be manipulated, can be forged, can be produced at scale. We don't want that, right? It's just a matter of establishing what is the source of that truth, and that's what Qpedia is for. And those who contribute pieces of truth are then the validators that come together and validate each other's questions and establish not really a unique truth, because sadly we will not come to a single truth, but we will come to a point where we understand at what degree a certain piece of knowledge or topic is validated by the 10%, the 20%, the 30%, the 80% of the community. The point, I hope I'm not shouting because I hear some noises. It's okay. The point is very much, think of Edison 100 years ago. If you asked Edison to formulate a question, he would have formulated a question that nobody would have understood 100 years ago, right? But 50 years after, the same truth is widely spread and appreciated. So the point is that the truth evolves. The point is not necessarily agree all on the same truth at the same time, but being able to map how the truth evolves.
Okay. Yeah, so I understand that, and that definitely sounds like a valuable product. My question now is, what are the use cases of that product?
Well, I think anybody needs truth. But I look at a few examples. Whatever you publish, or our talk, when you spread the talk or when you spread a piece of content, it needs to be validated to gain traction, to gain trustworthiness. And me as a user, looking for a product or looking for a potential business partner, I need to understand who knows what.
Right.
And the only way to know who knows what is trying to research what they say, what they think about a specific topic, and then form a critical decision about a piece of content that person eventually delivered. So it's a matter, I see it as a way to facilitate the decision-making by anyone. And it moves from the understanding of what people deliver in terms of knowledge and understanding on that topic that I am researching, for example.
Mm-hmm. So would you classify this as a fact-checking platform, or more of, like, let's say, because I'm thinking about two use cases here. Thinking about one, this could be used as a way to decentralize fact-checking, and in another way, this could be used to validate, like, expertise, right? It can validate, like, if you're a professor, like, it can validate your knowledge, because you could be a professor in title alone, like, doesn't mean that you actually know what you're talking about. So this platform could be used to validate, like, knowledge instead of just credentials. How would you respond to that?
Correct. Qpedia is about facts, and the Tiiqu is about people. So if we talk of measuring skills, that's Tiiqu. And I can explain here how. If we talk about validating knowledge and validating truth, most importantly, that's Qpedia.
Oh, okay. Yeah, could you break down the difference between each?
Of course. Qpedia is a knowledge sharing platform, and the MightyQ application is an assessment tool. So on one side, you find the knowledge, you browse information, you browse bite-sized knowledge, and you take decisions about what you can believe or not based on what is the available knowledge for each specific topic. So on one side is definitely about facts, and on the other side, I want to know how much do I know about blockchain. I take questions, I benchmark my skills against others, I compete in a leaderboard by category, and eventually I convert into blockchain credentials the result of an assessment that is taken in real time right now.
Okay. So what is the transaction in the blockchain?
Well, we use a very subtle layer of blockchain simply for storing pieces of truth. So while the majority, but probably all entities that are somehow involved into credentialing see the existence both of the user and of the issuer on the blockchain, that's not the model that we have chosen. The Certif system, which is behind the Tiiqu application, lives on the server of the issuer and allows the instant issuance on the blockchain of a proof about one's knowledge. And so we use the blockchain Ethereum simply for storing proofs and of course for verifying the truth. We have created the Reef, which is an open source verifier that allows the verification of any credentials that is issued with a Certif. And the Certif application works in the backstage of the mobile application MightyQ.
Ah, okay. Gary, I'm sorry for taking up all the questions. Do you have any questions?
Actually, Laura kind of answered them. I was going to ask about Serve and Verif. So Verif is a verification system that you use in Tiiqu, correct?
Yeah.
And then Certif is a certification aspect of Tiiqu.
So Certif is the certification aspect, yes. Is a standalone, probably the only standalone system that allows to issue credentials in batches. When I say credential, I want to explain. They are not necessarily the classical conversion of, a certificate of education or whatever. We see the future very much about ongoing learning. So any piece of knowledge that can be demonstrated during a conversation like this, for example, I would love in the future to see talks converted with AI into measurable skills and the proof to be issued. And that's where MightyQ will help. So the idea of MightyQ is to collect any piece of proof of knowledge, regardless if issued in the context of a standardized educational system or in an ongoing educational or learning opportunity that could be tomorrow, even an event.
So, what I find most striking about this technology is that it can disrupt a lot of different industries. It can disrupt publishers, like certain news sites like the New York Times or the LA Times or whatever they have over in Europe. And it can also disrupt like the education system. It can definitely, because now you're not just relying on like the fact that someone has a master's or a bachelor's. We're relying on like what they know, what their actual knowledge is, and their knowledge base is on the blockchain, so it's always accessible for everyone to see.
Can I say no?
No,
and I tell you why. I don't see. Well, many said Tiiqu would disrupt the education system. That's not really. The point is very much about making things better, not replacing things. So I see the Tiiqu score as a complement to LinkedIn or to any social platform where there is a need to establish trustworthiness of your interlocutor in a very fast and rapid way. So the point is not very much about replacing a system or with Tiiqu or publisher with Qpedia, not at all. It's validating on one side individuals' trustworthiness, on the other side the trustworthiness of facts. So that's the added value that we want to bring to the table. Qpedia is a non-profit project, so the idea really is to add value to what exists. And I also see for Tiiqu, I chose the format and the framework of a community interest company, because I strongly believe that we need to invest time and effort to add trustworthiness to the entire ecosystem. Otherwise, if we don't make trustworthy topics and our technologies, even our technology, think of what happened in the blockchain space. I'm navigating the space since 2015, and when I came to London the first time, because in Italy nobody knew about what blockchain was, but I can assure you it was fun. The conversations around the blockchain space were everywhere. But since then, we are still talking, and a lot of technologies that are fantastic are sleeping, waiting for the adoption. So we really needed to. Why? Because people struggle in understanding and defining what is true. So it's a matter of I don't know who I can trust, and it's a matter of understanding which is the good piece of information that I have to take. So these are the two elements that on one side Tiiqu and Qpedia on the other side I want to tackle.
Curious, in verification of the people's truths or proofs, how do you, I'm assuming they're the ones that are putting the information in, so how do you do your check or fact checking to make sure what is truth and what is possibly fabricated?
Good point. That's what I was saying before, right? So the point is it's not really putting on blockchain and solving all problems. The point is understanding what is on. So you're talking about information about, I don't know, one's knowledge, or are you talking about the Qpedia side? So
both, actually.
Pieces of info content. So for the Qpedia side is the community that validates knowledge. So basically, you publish about Web3 questions, and you give your explanation and your view and your perspective about that topic. And somebody else will come and will validate or not, or will add another piece of truth. And then when these questions are filtered and submitted to the entire community, that is a dynamic community that grows continuously, that's where the validation happens. It's not Tiiqu, it's not Harvard, it's not you, it's nobody, is the entire community, which is a dynamic community that changes constantly, because anyone who proves to be an expert in that topic, well, they will be able to then validate and participate in the validation, and they will also be rewarded for that. So this is for Qpedia. For Tiiqu, which is about individuals on the validation of skills, so again, the validation happens when the individual, sorry, you were talking about identity validation, or the validation of the skills and knowledge, etc.? Which is the part you are more interested in?
Actually, both. The identity. Well, more what the individual says they know, and what their past history is, and.
Okay. So we said that the point is first understanding what is true. Let's just say that we have on my Tiiqu X number of questions, and the number grows constantly because every expert can contribute questions. Anyone can choose their tribe. We have divided the platform into tribes: the tribe for sustainability, emerging tech, virtual reality, blockchain, whatever. And in this framework, you can access a number of topics that you're interested in. It's a way for you to learn or to simply benchmark your skills against others. You answer questions. You can go from beginner to expert, and according to the number of questions and how you answer, then you have a score that says how much you know. And because questions come in constantly, it's not a typical test with the 15 questions that you answer and then it's finished. No, because the knowledge evolves constantly. So you cannot simply answer a question and think that you are an expert, because tomorrow somebody else will discover something from the other side of the world. And I mean, you cannot be an expert forever. It's not a static thing, it's dynamic thing. And so by answering constantly questions, you benchmark your skills against others, and who states whether or not you are an expert, a beginner, an average, whatever. It's not Tiiqu, it's not Harvard, it's not you, it's not the single, but is the set of questions pre-validated by experts, or the dynamic community of experts, that states at what level of competency you are at that given time. And think that because knowledge evolves, you will need to keep your understanding on the topic constantly up to date. So it's not, I take a test today, I have my certificate or my proof, and that's done. No. Because that's not the future of work. The future of work is continuous learning, and therefore continuously assessing.
So I have a question on how that process occurs. Do you have some sort of score system, or if you can generally explain the algorithm that's occurring, like how do you provide this process? Because you said you have a set of questions that was validated by experts, and then the person who takes these questions or takes these tests, like how does that work? How does that work?
Okay. First of all, there are two schools. The first evaluates how much you know about a topic. And this is an evaluation score that is continuously updated according to the easiness by which you answer questions. And that easiness is compared to the average one. Is the same algorithm, the ELO algorithm, that is behind the play of the chess, just to understand. So the questions that you will be submitted will be more and more difficult according to how easy it is for you to answer, and how, and consequently also how much did the entire community evolve on that question. Say, if you took 5 years ago a question on blockchain, it would have been very, very difficult. And today probably the same question would be very easy. Why? Because the entire community evolved. And there are a lot of things that today we know, and 5 years ago we didn't know. So the schools and the evaluation attached to each question evolves constantly together with the community evolution and the evolution of knowledge. And this is the evaluation of knowledge. Then the Tiiqu score doesn't measure knowledge. It measures the trustworthiness of set of claims. So it says it is derived from it is obviously algorithmically calculated from 4 nodes: identity, education, or performance, and reputation. So on the longer run, we see also the interaction with the other platforms' rating. But at the present stage, we are focused on the performance node, which is the one that measures knowledge assessed on the platform, because that's what we can control. It's a long-term vision. The idea is to create a knowledge-based identity, where obviously identity is verified at the moment with a very standardized system. And at the second, once the identity is validated, then any piece of truth attached to that identity gains credibility for that individual. I hope I didn't lose myself and I answered to your question.
No, it's good. It's good, but because your idea is, I wouldn't say it's complicated, but it's definitely nuanced. So we have to definitely probe to get a better understanding of.
Yeah, absolutely. I do perfectly understand. It's a complex project, and it has always been very. I'm trying to simplify. I think that. It's just a matter of understanding and giving it the time to enter in a new era where we all participate to each other's trustworthiness.
Yeah.
So is the testing part of it, is that part of the skilled part of Tiiqu?
I beg your pardon?
The skilled part of Tiiqu, is that part of the knowledge-based?
Skilled, yes. Skilled was the original name of the feature that is one of the functionality of my Tiiqu.
Okay.
Skilled at.
Skilled at, yes.
That's the part where they take the test, right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So I have a question. Since this is since Tiiqu is a blockchain project, is there a token associated with it?
There was. When we incorporated the initial idea was, I will say something that you don't like, I'm sure. At the very beginning, we created a token called Q, the initial project was to tokenize, to establish a mechanism of rewarding based on tokens. We scraped this part of the project in 2018 when it was clear that the market is not ready to fairly associate trust and the tokens. It's not something that we have abandoned forever, but I think that we first need the market to correctly and fairly and honestly use tokens before associating the concept of trust with tokens.
Now, by that statement, are you referring to pump and dumpers, like people who just buy assets or token assets just to see what the price goes, and then if it starts dumping, then we sell it. So, like, is the market not correctly utilizing your token?
No, I think that the market has not yet the level of knowledge to fairly evaluate and distinguish the different way by which tokens are used. So because we protect the truth and we advocate for trust, I think it's our responsibility to wait the right time before increasing the level of confusion that the market at the moment experience.
Okay.
So my commitment as a participant in this in the blockchain community is to try to help the understanding and the confidence, the level of confidence in the industry. And when this will be done, well, I'm very happy to reconsider, because I strongly believe that tokenization could significantly help to democratize access to many things. But it needs to be used properly and with the right criteria.
Yeah, I understand. Introducing a token to a platform that's dedicated to truth could, bring about some gamification of the truth and of facts that might not be, valuable to the rest of the platform. So, yeah, like, until you guys figure out the best way to do that, that's a good idea to hold off. But
there is no hurry. I think we needed to let things evolve and go with it.
For sure. So, since it's a blockchain, like, is it your own blockchain, and is there a particular consensus mechanism you use, or are you like built on Ethereum?
Ethereum.
For sure. Well, Ethereum is the go-to guy.
Well, I definitely appreciate the community, and for aspiring a project that is global, at the moment, to me, seems the good option. I don't say that others are not good, but simply we have chosen Ethereum.
No, absolutely. Ethereum has some of the best documentation. It has a lot of people with a great knowledge base that you can go to just talk about the technology. And I think the reason a lot of its competitors haven't really taken off is because, its knowledge base, its ecosystem isn't as, fleshed out as Ethereum is. So Ethereum for anyone is like probably the best choice at this moment.
I don't want but that's our choice.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Yeah. So I was curious about, because you are creating like this blockchain-based decentralized, blockchain decentralized knowledge base, pretty much any user, like we were talking about earlier, publishers, universities, jobs, any of those people can utilize this blockchain mechanism to validate the people that they hire. Like, do you have any plans for integration in those institutions?
Okay, let's divide things in two. Tiiqu, the mobile application, is for individuals. So and I tell you one thing, how I came to Tiiqu. In my previous life, corporate life, I ran large teams, and I was brought to manage a lot of people. And I realized how little individuals are considered and can evaluated for their uniqueness and their potential. So I will never allow Tiiqu to be a dashboard for peeling individuals in one way or in the others. The mobile application and whatever is for the individual, and is for the individual to share eventually whatever they want with who they want. However, I think that alone we do nothing at all. So I think that companies will be able to use to give as a gift the application to their people for sharing knowledge within a tribe, but will still be in the ownership of the individual, whatever he or she does with his tools. And this is for Tiiqu. So the answer to you, yes, we'll look at companies as partners in using the tribe's mechanism for sharing and managing knowledge, and of course eventually measuring, allowing their people to grow their knowledge with Tiiqu. But on the other side, we look at research hubs, specialists, strategies to come together on Qpedia and contribute their knowledge. So they simply need to create a question, or they can ask us to help them with an AI tool mechanism that convert pieces of content into question and answers. Publish questions, and then invite their tribe, invite their peers in interacting. And that's where the truth will be established through the community of experts. So in that, for Qpedia, we look at research hubs, individuals, and or eventually entities or associations or groups that are very interested in emerging technologies and sustainability. These are the two spaces we are at the moment interested in.
So as far as emerging technologies, could you go into some of the emerging technologies that you are associated with?
Virtual reality, augmented reality, chatbots, big data, edge cloud, of course quantum computing, blockchain. Of course, you are invited to contribute to the Web3 space. What else? 3D printing, super interesting. Robotics. What else? I would say, I think I have mentioned quite a lot. Well, of course, artificial intelligence, can't miss it.
Yeah. Artificial intelligence is huge right now, especially with generative AI art. It's really taken off. It's all over Twitter.
Yeah, the point, is that in these topics, there is no end in learning.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's what we really need to tackle the issue of what I know altogether. Because I know one piece, you know one piece, altogether we know much more.
Absolutely.
But we don't have the time to go through a lot of stuff. So answering questions is much easier. We say that the truth and also the understanding of how much we know is just one question away.
Yeah, definitely. So, I'm curious, like, this is open source technology, correct?
For what we consider Qpedia, yes.
Okay. So it can be integrated into, other projects, right?
I think at a later stage it would absolutely make sense for organizations to benefit of the incredible power that, in terms of understanding of where knowledge is, that Qpedia will deliver. And it is open and open source and non-profit, exactly because the aim of Qpedia is not owning knowledge, is allowing truth to be available for everyone.
Yeah, so, so truth will just pretty much rise to the top, pretty much, in this type of ecosystem. Because, some people, they might be contributing to your platform and, they're going off their knowledge base, but their knowledge base might not be, the most factually correct. So your community will correct them and the truth will rise to the top eventually. Based on
I think we are network cells, right? Made of different elements. So my feelings make me looking at a piece of truth according to what I know, of course, and what my experience, but it's my feeling that will change everything. So that's where I definitely need you to come and look at the same thing from a different perspective, or simply from a different field. Think of a piece of truth, or think of your technology. You look at it from a technologist's perspective, but the legal person will look at it from a different perspective, and the specialist will look at it from a different perspective again, and the researcher will look at it at a different perspective again. So the point is that altogether, you can establish what is true and what is, or at least what is believed to be the truth by the average participant. It was very fun. A couple of weeks ago, I was talking with a large UK institution, and they said, I bring together the finance guy and the clean energy guy, and they both talk about the KPIs, and they do not agree. And why? Because they use the same words with different meanings.
Right.
And that's the big issue that is everywhere. Whatever we do in companies, we put together a team, they don't understand each other because they don't have the same truth. It's a knowledge management problem, and it drills down in the difficulty to understand what is true and what is not. Right.
Yeah. I think especially in this world and where technology is going, where everything is going more decentralized, it's good to have, different perspectives kind of building up the quality of truth so we can all have a better understanding. Because like you said, the lawyer is going to have a different perspective from the clean energy guy. But it doesn't mean that either is wrong. It just means that you have to understand both perspectives and kind of measure like which one most relates to the decisions that you're trying to make regarding that information. So that's
it all drills down in two elements: trustworthiness of the source of truth, and valuability of the piece of knowledge or content or truth. So who is issuing, who is contributing, and how is validated a piece of truth. When we have these two elements, then we can take informed decision based on that element, because it comes from sources that we trust, and it is validated not by one entity or one individual. Because the point is, we cannot allow the truth to be sold, to be manipulated, to be used to one's benefit. It must be something that we can trust, And we can only do that if a wider participation validate that piece of truth.
Absolutely.
And we need to trust those entities or those individuals that participate in the validation. So the two things together are, intrinsically linked.
Absolutely. Yeah, I definitely agree. So where do you see TQ, like, when it's like, what you would define as successful? Like, when it's at, like, the place that you want it to be? What does that look like?
Well, TQ is a trust mechanism. So when it will be the little value beside any online profile to signal one's the trustworthiness of one's credentials or proofs or whatever, well, it will make lives of everyone much easier, and trust online instantaneous. That's where I see the position of TQ.
Absolutely. And I can see, like, if we can figure out how to make it into a little package that people can maybe place on their website, I can see that as like a way for LinkedIn to, how Twitter has like a blue check mark. I think like maybe these different institutions like LinkedIn or Indeed.com or whatever could like place some sort of indicator that, this person, is trusted by the TQ platform, which can carry a lot of weight.
Yeah, I didn't like very much to say that it's trusted by TQ. It's not trusted by TQ. It's trusted and stop. We are just the enabler of this, but we are not the entity that delivers trust. Each of us is entitled to establish trust with others along their story. So it's not TQ that establish trust. TQ is the enabler of a new trust mechanism to facilitate life online.
Very interesting. That's a good way to distinguish like yourself. Gary, do you have any other questions?
More of a statement, well, maybe a formal question, is that I was wondering how, if someone was skeptical about any ulterior motives that TQ would have for making someone appear more trustworthy than they are, but the way it's set up is not TQ is doing anything. They just had the platform for people to verify information for themselves through the credentials of people that are experts in that particular field, to assess the knowledge of that person that's not in question, but is saying that they are knowledgeable in a certain area. So it's not like some of TQ is saying this is this and this is that. Everybody else is contributing to it is doing the verification of that individual status. So there can't be any confusion.
Sorry, was there a question behind your statement?
No, I was thinking about the ulterior motives thing. People are thinking, well, why should I trust your platform? But I see now that we do that because it's not one person verifying anything; it's a whole group of people verifying.
No. It's I strongly believe in the decentralized piece of the mechanism. There is no single entity that can do anything. The point is, if we all work together towards this, my is a call to action to work all together for the truth and for trust.
Yeah, absolutely. So, how do you think this technology can impact, our day-to-day lives, like from your perspective?
Well, on the long run, well, we have seen with the COVID how important it is, the online world. But sadly, we don't use it enough. And it's, say, I love shaking hands to people, but if I want to make business with the other side of the world, I cannot always take a flight, right? So I wanted to, and I want to be free to do business with the African guy, with the Indian guy, with the US guy, with the Brazilian guy. I don't care about boundaries. I don't think boundaries is what we need. We need a trust that goes behind boundaries. So we need a shared mechanism. So the impact is empowering the individual and give to that individual exponential opportunities to do business, to expand their knowledge, to make friends, to interrelate. And the more we interrelate, the more we grow as people. So I move from the principle, and I've seen that in companies. We use really a very small part of our potential. And the very big point, the sad point, is that we do so because the entire system cases us into a small case. So I am a woman, you are a black, you are, I don't know, and that's how people are categorized. So I come from retail business. I would have never been able to access to a tech job if I wanted to be hired. Well, I built a tech company, but so the point is that we also used to categorize people, but it's very complicated to go out from our, how the world, so I'm the daughter of entrepreneurs, and I should have done the same job of my father, and I was educated to that. But I didn't want, and I wanted to change. So the problem is that society as a whole doesn't really allow you to go out from from the case where you have been placed when you were born. So I think that we need new systems to establish trust, but also self-awareness. Because the big problem today is that you are case in a specific position, and you start thinking that you are really what the others think of you. I managing large groups of people, I understood that the system is such that at a certain point people start asking themselves. So we need a mechanism that allows everyone to assess themselves for themselves, first of all, not necessarily for showing to the others who they are, what they know, what they have done, but to show to themselves. Because I'm sure that when you know that you know this, and you perform well here, and you perform well, and that patterns, when these patterns will tell you that probably you can go there, and you would have never expected to know to go there. Well, that will be the people empowerment, the empowerment of individuals, giving them the assurance that they can, based on what they know. But today there is no mechanism. There is I go to the university, if I'm lucky, I go to a good university. If I'm not lucky, I will never have chances. Or even.
Absolutely.
So I definitely think that the impact is empowering people, and that's the starting point of Tiiqu when I really started. The point is let people go behind what the case that the world provided to them for X reasons.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why, like, I'm a huge fan of decentralization, because when we decentralize power and finance and wealth and all these different things, like we're not relying on I'm a black man or you're a woman or whatever the case is. We're relying on like, am I capable of doing whatever job or whatever task I'm being hired for? Like, do I have the knowledge base to speak on whatever topic that I'm supposed to speak on? It's not about, hey, you're black, so whatever, social stigma, or you're a woman, so whatever social stigma. It's, do you have the actual ability to deliver, what you're being hired for? And, that's why, like, decentralization is huge. It's huge for people of color and people who have traditionally been marginalized, because now we're not relying on, the whims of, someone who might be societally ignorant, who thinks like, oh, these types of people are...
Yeah. It's not only, the stigma is not only about gender, about ethnicity, about status. It's really the mechanism, the existing mechanism. I'll make you an example. If you come from a sector, you research for that sector. So nobody will propose you a completely different job for the simple reason that you come from that sector. So if we don't allow people to test themselves outside the usual topics that they navigate very well, you will never know what that individual could bring to another table. And I can tell you, I make an example. One of my team is a mathematician. And one day discovering her, she told me that she was a dancer. And I found that very curious. I thought, wow, mathematics and dancing. I found it quite strange. A couple of days after, I meet a professor. He said, oh, my daughter is a mathematician and she loves dancing for X reasons. So what I want to say is that there are unexpected correlation between skills that we don't know about that could be discovered by simply mapping the truth of an individual, so that that individual can perceive, have the awareness that because this is you now, there are chances that you can go in that direction. And that is and that could significantly stop the idea that because you come from that sector and you have been doing this, you are not good at. And it goes much beyond the color of the skin, or is a stigmatization for what? For the pre-assumption that because you have done this, you're good at X. But that's not true. That's absolutely not true. I strongly believe that we have a lot in every individual, but the majority use themselves just for a very little part.
I have personal experience with that. When I first moved to Los Angeles, I moved here because I'm an actor. And trying to get a position, I also have a sales background. So I was looking for sales positions, but a lot of people didn't want to hire me because I was very honest up front saying I'm an actor and I have to take off an audition or to shoot something. And they were like, basically, we don't trust or want to hire actors because they're flaky and they don't show up and they don't do this and they don't perform, which is not true. I do my job very well when I'm at my job, but I just wanted to be honest saying that when I have this coming up, I need to go take care of this as well. And I finally found a job that allowed me to do that without question. And I'm one of their top producers, but I also do film and TV and all those things as well. So a lot of people will put you into a certain box saying that, well, you told me you're this now, so you can't be this for me if you're doing that for you. And it's just not true.
That's exactly, but think of what is happening with the refugees. can you imagine these loads of people that migrate from one place and the other, they have no proofs, they come to another country, nobody knows of them, they talk another language, they may have been with I don't know how many degrees or whatever in their country, but they come somewhere else and nobody knows them, nobody understands them. So how do you prove what you know when you migrate? And I can tell you, I came to the UK not as a refugee, and but if I had to ask for a job, I would have difficulties to express what I could deliver. So the point is that we have to stop building walls and decrease boundaries and limits and pre-assumptions, because the world is so fluid and the skills and knowledge is so fluid that we are all teachers and learners. So Qpedia was created with that in mind, that in every individual there is something that deserves to be out there. We can probably learn from the very young guy or from the old person or whatever, and all skills together make the global cleverness that allows us to build upon further knowledge. But we, as a society, we are used to exclude, not to include. And here I'm not necessarily talking about races, gender, I'm really talking about cleverness. We have built a world divided into little cases that we think they are right.
Yeah.
That's...
Well, Laura, we are at the last 10 minutes, and we usually take the last 10 minutes to, promote anything that you might need to promote. I know that you have a crowdfunding campaign going. Tell me about that.
Not yet going, but is ready for start. So the priority for Tiiqu and for myself today is first to invest the time and efforts in establishing what is true. I think for everyone is a fundamental element. It is important for industries to build credibility of what they are doing. It's important for people to establish who they are in the world. And it's important for the future, because if we build on truth, we can then rely on a trustworthy future. So think only of this. The question and the answers that we will ask each other in the next 10 years will make or dismantle the future of Earth, right?
Yeah.
So we need to invest the time and the efforts in building those questions and get the right answers. And that's what Qpedia is for. So I invite everyone to help Tiiqu and myself to support Qpedia. I invite everyone to participate in sharing their knowledge with Qpedia or supporting Qpedia with Tiiqu through the crowdfunding. There is a page dedicated. You can just sign up and you will be informed when the crowdfunding will be up. Yes, join Qpedia and be part of the movement for truth.
Absolutely. And what's the URL to those two places?
Sorry?
What's the URL? Like where can they go?
Sorry. Qpedia, Qpedia.com and Tiiqu, Tiiqu.com.
Okay. And is there any, would you like them to follow you on Twitter or LinkedIn or anything of that sort?
Well, I want everyone to, yes. participate as you like, as you want. We are on Instagram, on Twitter, on Facebook, on LinkedIn, wherever you find these two brands. Follow, interact, participate, and support in every capacity